Now we are going to discuss about respiration. What is the respiration and how it is important? Earlier we have seen that how nutrition is important for the human beings and how different organisms are going to get their nutrition in the different way. Now we are going to see how this respiration is going to help so that that nutrition is going to reach to each and every cell, as well as how blood going to exchange that oxygen and carbon dioxide. That process we are going to see. Okay, so here if you see that in this activity, they have taken one example. So lime water is taken. So in the chemistry, for that is the first chapter we have seen. So lime water, what is the formula? CaOH whole 2. Okay, this calcium hydroxide. On this calcium hydroxide, it will pass the carbon dioxide. So what will happen here? It's going to convert into CaCO3 plus H2O. So finally, it will become the calcium carbonate, that is we call as the marble. So in this activity, what they're doing, they're trying to pass air, okay, through the pitchkari or syringe, where we have lime water in one test tube, whereas in another test tube, also we have lime water, but here what we have activity, we are going to blow that air with the mouth. Okay. So finally, if you realize this one, so in which one is going to turn the more milky? So when calcium, that is the calcium hydroxide or lime water, on this when we are going to pass the carbon dioxide, it will turn the milky, that is the calcium carbonate plus water will be there. So when we are going to do the whitewash in the home, suppose in the village side, people used to do the whitewash with the help of this calcium in place of paint. So this lime water is going to react with carbon dioxide. So after a few days, surface will be available there. Okay. So now when we have this air, we are going to blow from the mouth. Okay. So in this carbon dioxide amount will be more in compared to that fresh air that we are throwing with the help of pitchkari. So that's why this test tube B, this will turn the milky faster. Another again activity you'll see here. So in that some fruit juice or sugar solution is being taken and it is being mixed with some yeast. And finally, this different test tube is being taken. Okay. So this one you try to observe how much time it is taking to change that one. Okay. So that you try to perform the activity. So now mainly we are going to talk about important of respiration. रेस्पिरेशन कैसे हम लोग के लिए इम्पोर्टेंट है। अभी तक हम लोगों ने देखा कि लाइम वाटर के ऊपर जब कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड पास करेंगे तो ये क्या होता है, मिल्की कन्वर्ट हो जाता है। सो दैट इज कैल्शियम कार्बोनेट एंड फॉर्मेशन ऑफ द वाटर टेक्स प्लेस। सो नाउ finally here in this portion we have discussion that how those nutritions, what after digestion it is available as the glucose, that we have C6H12 and O6, how it is going to break again somewhere to break down this glucose. If you see that once it will be broken, so it will be converted into the CO2 plus H2O plus, will get lot of amount of the energy here. So finally, sometimes, okay, we are going to use the oxygen, okay. So when oxygen is required, so later we are going to give the particular name for this, like we have aerobic, okay. So that we are going to see it again one by one. So when in case of first step, when breakdown takes place for glucose, then it will have, if you try to balance here, it will have how many carbon molecules? It will have 6 carbon molecules. Okay. And again, that 6 carbon molecules, what we have here, that is converted here into 3 carbon molecules. Here, how many carbons are here? 6. Okay. So this one later we'll try to balance here. Okay. This, if you write here 6, it will not be correct. So that will do the balancing of that one later. So what is written here? In the first step, क्या होता है? किसका ब्रेकडाउन हो रहा है? ग्लूकोज का. ग्लूकोज किस चीज में कन्वर्ट हो रहा है? 6 carbon molecules. Okay. So this 6 carbon molecule, what was there in 6,6H12O6, it is being converted into the 3 carbon molecules. So 6 carbon molecules of what? Glucose is converted into 3 carbon molecules. Okay. So that is called as pyruvate. What is the name? Pyruvate. So this process takes place where? It takes place in the cytoplasm. So you know about the cell having cytoplasm, mitochondria, all these things. Again, further, this pyruvate can be converted into the ethanol and carbon dioxides. So later we'll see the one by one. So here what we have seen, that 6 carbon molecules is being converted into 3 carbon molecules, and further, so when it is converted into 3 carbon molecules, that name क्या है उसका नाम? Pyruvate. So further, this pyruvate, maybe it will be converted into what? Ethanol. So ethanol is being used as the fuel with the petroleum product, as well as it is being used in the wine also. So it is going to be the ethanol and carbon dioxides. So this is happening where? During the fermentation. So fermentation takes place. So fermentation generally takes place when? In the absence of air. So since there is the absence of air, so oxygen will not be available. Okay. So such type of this respiration is called as the anaerobic respiration. Here what's happening? Absence of air is there. So automatic absence of oxygen is there. तो जब ऑक्सीजन नहीं है, दैट मीन्स ऑलरेडी एयर, एयर नहीं है तो मतलब ऑक्सीजन भी नहीं है, तब क्या हो रहा है? सो फाइनली फर्मेंटेशन टेक्स प्लेस. सो ऐसे प्रोसेस को क्या बोलते हैं? एनारोबिक रेस्पिरेशन. ओके. सो समटाइम्स द ब्रेकडाउन ऑफ pyruvate, for that oxygen is required. So where it is happening? It is happening in the mitochondria. So when this breakdown takes place of pyruvate, which having 3 carbon molecules, okay, so oxygen is required. It is happening where? In mitochondria. And in the absence, it was happening where? In the cytoplasm. So cytoplasm, there we have absence of oxygen. So that is called as the anaerobic respiration. और जब यहाँ ऑक्सीजन की आवश्यकता है टू ब्रेक डाउन दैट, कहाँ हो रहा है? ये माइटोकॉन्ड्रिया में हो रहा है. यू नो अबाउट दिस माइटोकॉन्ड्रिया इज द पावर हाउस ऑफ द सेल. तो क्या हो रहा है अगेन हियर? तो माइटोकॉन्ड्रिया में दिस प्रोसेस ब्रेक द 3 कार्बन जो था pyruvate molecules is going to give the 3 molecules of carbon dioxide along with other product is what? Water. So it is happening where? In the presence of air or presence of oxygen. So its name is given aerobic respiration. So we have seen 2 types of the respiration. एक क्या है? हवा के absence में हो रहा. So that is called as the anaerobic. और जब हवा के प्रेजेंस में हो रहा है, दैट इज द एरोबिक. सो हवा के एब्सेंस में कहां पर हो रहा है? साइटोप्लाज्म. हवा के साथ कहां पर हो रहा है? माइटोकॉन्ड्रिया में. ओके, समझ में आया? कोई दिक्कत? यू कैन राइट इन द कमेंट बॉक्स. ओके, हियर वी आर ट्राइंग टू यूज हिंदी एंड इंग्लिश. and we have separate lecture for the Hindi, English alone at present. Later we'll have in complete Hindi also. Okay, but you have to write in the exam in the English, so that's why. But understanding is important. Okay, so यहाँ पे क्या है, दो respiration, anaerobic and aerobic. Anaerobic कहाँ हुआ, साइटोप्लाज्म में. एरोबिक कहाँ हुआ, माइटोकॉन्ड्रिया में. तो एरोबिक मतलब presence of air, presence of oxygen. Anaerobic, absence of air, absence of oxygen. Okay. So in the aerobic, what is going to happen here? We'll have more energy in compared to anaerobic. Okay. And sometimes maybe there is the lack of oxygen. Oxygen is there, but lack of oxygen where? In our muscle cells. Okay. So there have another pathway to break down this pyruvate. Okay. So here is the lack of oxygen, not absence, lack of oxygen. That takes place in somewhere in the muscles. So later we'll see that creates some problem also. Okay. So when we have lack of oxygen, so this pyruvate is being converted into what? Lactic acids. So that lactic acid is also three carbon molecules. Okay. And due to this lactic acids, we'll have some cramps will feel in the muscles. Okay, due to lactic acids. So where what is happening? Due to lack of oxygen. Oxygen क्या है यहाँ पर, कमी है. और पायरुवेट क्या हुआ, ब्रेक हो रहा है इन द लैक ऑफ ऑक्सीजन, जिसके कारण लैक्टिक एसिड प्रोड्यूस होगा. और जब लैक्टिक एसिड प्रोड्यूस होगा तो इसके बिल्डअप के कारण समटाइम्स कुछ काम करते करते सडनली क्रैम्प्स फील होता है. जैसे मान लीजिए आप प्लेयर्स को देखेंगे क्रिकेट मैच में, आईपीएल में और नेशनल इंटरनेशनल मैच, सडनली खिलाड़ी को क्या होता है, क्रैम्प्स आता है. तो दैट इज द हैपनिंग ड्यू टू फॉर्मेशन ऑफ लैक्टिक एसिड्स. and and sometimes even we also realize this one. Okay, so वहां पर क्या हो रहा है, absence नहीं है, lack of oxygen. absence रहता तो क्या होता, anaerobic. presence aerobic. लेक होने के कारण, लेक ऑफ ऑक्सीजन की कमी होने के कारण लैक्टिक एसिड का फॉर्मेशन हो रहा है. सो वॉट एवर अभी तक हम लोगों ने देखा, सो दैट इज बीइंग समराइज्ड हियर इन दिस डायग्राम. सो क्या है हम लोग को, ग्लूकोज. ग्लूकोज में क्या है, 6 कार्बन मॉलिक्यूल. सो सबसे पहले इन द साइटोप्लाज्म में क्या हुआ, हियर इन द साइटोप्लाज्म में क्या हुआ, it is going to be converted. This breakdown of glucose, or you can say that 6 carbon molecules, okay, किस चीज में कन्वर्ट हुआ, पायरुवेट. सो पायरुवेट क्या है, ये 3 कार्बन मॉलिक्यूल्स प्लस एनर्जी मिला. फर्दर हाउ दिस pyruvate is going to break, on the basis of that 3 steps are there. पहला क्या है, इन द absence of oxygen. ओके, सो absence of oxygen कहाँ हुआ, इन ईस्ट में. वहां पर क्या हो रहा, फर्मेंटेशन. तो इस साइटोप्लाज्म का काम क्या है, टू कन्वर्ट द ग्लूकोज इनटू पायरुवेट. सो ग्लूकोज किस चीज में कन्वर्ट हो गया, पायरुवेट में. इसमें क्या है, 3 कार्बन मॉलिक्यूल्स और एनर्जी. अब इसमें क्या है, हाउ इट इज गोइंग टू ब्रेक. सो ऑक्सीजन की कमी है, तो ये क्या हो गया, अब्सेंस, नॉट कमी, इट इज कंप्लीटली अब्सेंस. तो ये क्या हो गया, एनारोबिक. ओके, एनारोबिक. तो इसमें एग्जाम्पल फाइनली हियर, दिस कार्बन मॉलिक्यूल्स इज कन्वर्टेड इनटू इथेनॉल, carbon dioxide energy. Later in the carbon compounds we'll discuss about ethanol. So ethanol में क्या है, 2 कार्बन. ओके, C2H2OH. That all discussion we'll do later. So finally energy formation takes place, और यहाँ पर 2 कार्बन मॉलिक्यूल से किसमें, इथेनॉल में. यदि लेक ऑफ ऑक्सीजन है, ऑक्सीजन है बट कमी है. So just now we have seen where it is happening in muscle cell. लैक्टिक एसिड का बिल्डअप होगा, एनर्जी मिलता है. और लैक्टिक एसिड में कितना कार्बन मॉलिक्यूल्स है, 3 कार्बन मॉलिक्यूल्स. इथेनॉल में कितना है? 2 कार्बन मॉलिक्यूल्स। लैक्टिक एसिड 3 कार्बन मॉलिक्यूल्स। अब क्या हो रहा? प्रेजेंस ऑफ ऑक्सीजन। सो प्रेजेंस ऑफ ऑक्सीजन हो गया एरोबिक। कहाँ पे होता है? माइटोकॉन्ड्रिया में। तो फाइनली यहाँ पर क्या मिल रहा है? कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड, वाटर एंड एनर्जी। सो दैट विल सी इन द ह्यूमन बींग्स when this glucose will be converted, there you'll see we have carbon dioxide, we have water as well as energy. यहाँ तक समझ में आई बात? ओके। नाउ द एनर्जी रिलीज्ड जो भी हुआ ड्यूरिंग द सेलुलर रेस्पिरेशन, okay, so that is being utilized. That is also you can say that synthesis a molecule. So that synthesis of molecule is called as the ATP. So which is used to fuel all other activities. So हम लोग को बॉडी में एनर्जी कहाँ से मिलता है? ATP से. So ATP क्या है? What is the ATP? ATP is the एडिनोसिने ट्राइफॉस्फेट। क्या है इसमें? फॉस्फेट कितना? ट्राइफॉस्फेट। सो व्हेन वी हैव ट्राइफॉस्फेट, इट इज द एडिनोसिने ट्राइफॉस्फेट. Another one term we are going to see, that is the called as the ADP. Okay, or ATP, this is the ATP. ATP from this, if one phosphorus will be removed, okay, so that will be converted into ADP, that is the adenosine diphosphate. So it has become the di. Here T is the triphosphate, diphosphate. Or in the ADP, if you are going to add the phosphorus, so it will become the ATP. Then it will become the triphosphate. Adenosine triphosphate. ADP, adenosine diphosphate. Okay? याद रहेगा? So this is the ADP is broken down. So that is going to give us a fixed amount of energy. और ये एनर्जी में क्या हुआ? इंडोथर्मिक रिएक्शंस हो रहा है सेल में. तो इंडोथर्मिक रिएक्शन में क्या हो रहा है? इंडो, इसमें हीट दिया जा रहा है. ओके, सो दैट हीट फ्रॉम वेयर दे आर गेटिंग ड्यू टू दिस presence of oxygens, okay, or due to muscles exercise. Okay, so that is endothermic. Endothermic में क्या होता है? Heat evolved in, we are going to give the heat directly, indirectly, whatever we are going to give. Exothermic में क्या होता है? हीट जनरेट होता है. रिएक्शन के बाद सॉल्यूशन क्या होगा? गर्म हो जाए. बट हियर एटीपी जो ब्रोकन हो रहा है, जो एनर्जी दे रहा है, वो क्या है? एक इंडोथर्मिक प्रोसेस. नाउ एटीपी अगेन इज रिटन, व्हाट इज दिस? इट इज द एनर्जी करेंसी. जैसे हम लोग के पास करेंसी रहता है तो हम लोग क्या करते हैं? थोड़ा स्ट्रॉन्ग फील करते हैं. ओके, सो बैकिंग इज स्ट्रॉन्ग. सो इट इज द एनर्जी करेंसी. एटीपी क्या है? एनर्जी करेंसी. किसके लिए? मोस्टली जो इतना भी सेलुलर प्रोसेस है उसके लिए. एंड सो व्हेन एनर्जी इज रिलीज्ड, तो कब हो रहा है? जब रेस्पिरेशन हो रहा है. तो इट इज यूज्ड टू मेक एटीपी मॉलिक्यूल फ्रॉम एडीपी. सो एडीपी में क्या है? डाइफॉस्फेट है. इसमें फास्फोरस जुड़ जाएगा तो क्या होगा? एटीपी. एटीपी ओनली गिव अस एनर्जी. Okay, so that is what inorganic phosphates. So here you can see that reaction. ADP में क्या है? फास्फोरस. तो यहाँ पर क्या हो रहा है? एनर्जी दिया जा रहा है. ओके, व्हाट वी आर इंडोथर्मिक. और एडीपी में जब फास्फोरस अटैच हो गया, दैट बिकम द ट्राइफॉस्फेट. ओके, सो इट इज द इंडोथर्मिक रिएक्शन. और इसमें जब एटीपी ब्रोक होता है, okay, so that linkage is being broken, so that energy is how much? 30.5 kilojoule in one molecule. So one molecule is going to release how much energy? 30.5 kilojoule. Kilo means 10 to power 3. So that is the similar condition like what is happening in case of battery, what we are using for the inverter. Okay, so what is the use of this ATP? That energy, it is can be used for the what? Contraction of the muscles, protein synthesis, and conduction of nervous impulses and some other activities for that energy is being utilized. Mainly is what? Contraction of muscles और दूसरा क्या है? Protein synthesis. Okay. So these are the major aspect about ATP. Okay. So now aerobic respiration में क्या हुआ? Oxygen पर depend कर रहा है. So that different intake of energy. So different organism को क्या है? Oxygen लेने का तरीका अलग अलग. Plant में what we have seen, they have stomata. So through stomata only they have exchange of gas, whether it is the oxygen, whether it is the carbon dioxide. Okay. But large intercellular space ensure that all cells are in contact with air. Okay. So that is the intercellular space that we have seen. Opening and closing of stomata is being controlled by the guard cell, all these things. Okay. So now carbon dioxide and oxygen are exchanged. What is the process? That process is called as the diffusion. जैसे मान लीजिए आप कहीं अगरबत्ती जलाए या anything धूपम something anything in our perfume. So immediate other person can realize that some smell is coming. So that process is what? Diffusion. So similarly, it can go to the cell, it can come out, it can have exchange with the air. So that direction of diffusion किस चीज पर डिपेंड करेगा? Environmental conditions or requirements of the plants. So always you know that from high pressure to low pressure flow takes place. So whenever is the low pressure region, like we see that sometimes we have cyclone and all these things. Okay. So दिन में क्या होता है? प्लांट क्या करता है? फोटोसिंथेसिस बनाता है. तो फोटोसिंथेसिस मीन्स दे आर गोइंग टू यूटिलाइज कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड, वाटर्स, मिनरल्स इन द प्रेजेंस ऑफ सनलाइट. जहां पर क्या है? क्लोरोफिल है. तो प्लांट क्या करता है? फूड बनाता है. सो यहाँ इन द डे टाइम क्या हो रहा है? मैक्सिमम कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड यूटिलाइज हो रहा है. लेकिन नाइट टाइम में क्या हो रहा है? प्लांट फोटोसिंथेसिस नहीं करता. देयर इज नो फोटोसिंथेसिस. सो फाइनली क्या होगा? एलिमिनेशन ऑफ CO2. What will happen? CO2 is whether plant is going to use? No. Okay. And during the daytime क्या हो रहा है? CO2 is generated during the respiration. वो क्या हो रहा है? फोटोसिंथेसिस के लिए यूज हो रहा है. Hence, there is no release of CO2. So in the daytime, we have maximum release of what? Oxygen. So how plants are going to maintain the balance, or it's going to provide us the oxygen. So we need to plant more tree. Okay. And but in case of animals, again in animals, again different categories are the fish है, वो कैसे ले रहा है. We are human beings, how we are taking. Okay. So now यहाँ पर we again depend upon the different organisms. So now finally, if you have some terrestrial animals, they used to breathe the oxygen in the atmospheres, okay, like we are getting from the air. But suppose some like a fish that are living in the water, so how they're going to use the dissolved water, that is dissolved oxygen in the water. Okay. So that is also respiration, but they're getting from where? Like in case of fish, they have gills, through that they're going to take the dissolved oxygen from the water. Okay. So finally, what will happen there? The rate of breathing in the aquatic organism is much faster क्योंकि उसको पानी से ऑक्सीजन लेना पड़ा. हम लोग को क्या है? डायरेक्ट ऑक्सीजन मिल रहा है. So that's why our breathing is little slower, or you can say it is normal, but aquatic elements, aquatic organism का क्या होगा? Fast होगा. Okay. Like example is what? Fish. So fish कैसे ले रहा है? From the mouth and force it past the gill. So gill is important there. Through their gill, they are able to get the dissolved oxygen, and that is going to mix with the blood. Okay. So ये हुआ aquatic organisms. So उसका respiration क्या होगा? Faster होगा. Like terrestrial organism, what is happening there? We are taking the oxygen from where? Atmosphere. So again, that oxygen which is being absorbed. So again, depend upon the organs which is available with the animals. So later we'll have discussion when we'll talk about transportation. So we'll see that like in our heart we have four chambers. So all like fish will have three chambers, reptiles all having different chambers. So similarly here that depends upon the respiratory organ, okay, how these animals are going to utilize. So here they are going to increase the surface area, okay, which will come in contact with the atmosphere. So some pores are there. So the exchange of the oxygen and carbon dioxide takes place through the surface. So that's why they're going to increase the surface area. So now to protect this surface, since this surface is what? Very thin and delicate. So that's why it is a respiration what we are taking like in we human beings. This is what internal organs. Lungs is what here internal organ. Okay. So exchange of this takes place. So now finally we are going to see about human beings. And here if you see the right side, it's written about tobaccos. These products are very harmful. So avoid this. Okay. I hope you people are aware and you are not using this. Okay. क्योंकि टोबैको के यूज से करने से क्या हो रहा है इट्स गोइंग टू इफेक्ट द हम लोग का टंग लंग्स हार्ट एंड लिवर ऑल दिस इंपॉर्टेंट ऑर्गन्स आर फॉर अस yes or no tongue will not get any taste lungs is not there respiration is not possible heart means blood circulation liver digestion even some companies saying it is a smokeless tobacco that is also harmful like people used to take and due to this people are going to get the heart attacks and some other pulmonary diseases. So heart attack, strokes, so and some different types of the cancers. So mostly in India, you people are suffering with the oral cancer due to consumption of the tobacco. Okay, in the form of gutka. So say no to the tobacco and its product, especially for the young generation like Gen Z. Okay, in Nepal, new government came Gen Z. So all young generations are going to be the future of the upcoming India or any other abroad country. So youth is only a strength. Okay. So that's why we should avoid the tobacco and tobacco products. So finally क्या है ह्यूमन बींग्स के बारे में हम लोग का अपना जो रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टम है दैट वी आर गोइंग टू सी सो एयर इज टेकन कहाँ से नॉस्ट्रिल्स नॉस्ट्रिल में क्या है एयर्स है वेयर फिल्टरिंग टेक्स प्लेस So fine hair hai, okay, that line of passage, and finally you see that is going to filter the air also, natural filter. And apart from this, we have mucus that help this process that we have seen in the case of nutrition also. Okay. Now air क्या हो रहा pass हो रहा through the throat and it is going to the lungs. So in the throat we have rings of cartilage. Rings of what? Cartilage. So that is present where in the throat. So it will have safe and secure air passes so that there will be no collapse due to these rings. It is the air is going to pass from the nostril to the lungs easily. So now here we can see the diagram. इसमें क्या है nasal passage है तो ये क्या है अपना nostril and this is the mouth cavity. Then we have pharynx, larynx, and here what we have the structures that is the rings of cartilage. Due to this rings of cartilage is going to provide the smooth passage so that this respiratory system in the initial stage is not going to collapse. So passage of the air takes place. Again here if you see that important part is here, main thing we'll see later about alveolar sac heart is going to be important. So apart from this, what we have bronchi and we have bronchioles. So when it is going to convert into the thinner small sections, as per that name is going to change. And this is the lungs structures, and here ribs we have for the protection on the both sides. And many important thing is the diaphragm also. So this one we can realize when we inhale, what is happening? Diaphragm is going to that is the relax, or it is going to be contract. That all we have to realize. Then you will have a better experience. So you'll see that passage क्या हो रहा है finally is going to divide into a smaller tubes. Okay. And finally, last structure is going to appear like a balloon-like structures that we call as the alveoli. What we call alveoli. Okay. So that alveoli you can see here. Okay. How it is going to be the small balloon-like structures. So and this is the respiratory bronchioles. From here, again, the smallest part here, that is the alveoli. So if somebody is going to smoke or taking the tobaccos and all, is going to affect this alveoli also. So this alveoli is going to provide the main role is that exchange of gases takes place. Like we have later we'll discuss क्या है, एक क्या है vein, एक क्या है artery. Later we are going to discuss. Okay. तो vein क्या करता है, impure blood को carry करता है from the body all parts to the okay towards the heart. And artery क्या करता है, pure bloods को heart से other parts में. Whereas if name will be the pulmonary vein. So pulmonary vein is going to carry the pure bloods from these oxygenated bloods from the lungs to the heart, and pulmonary artery is going to bring the deoxygenated bloods from the heart to the lungs. That discussion we'll have later. So यहाँ पे important क्या है, alveoli. ये क्या है, singular alveolus. Okay. So what is used क्या है, exchange of gas takes place. और इसका वाल जो है एल्वेली का, दे हैव एक्सटेंसिव नेटवर्क ऑफ ब्लड वेसल्स. अब ये क्या है, ब्लड वेसल्स कांटेक्ट में आया. सो व्हेन वी जब हम लोग ब्रीथ करते हैं, देन वी लिफ्ट आवर रिब्स एंड फ्लैटन द आवर डायफ्रागम. ओके, डायफ्रागम क्या हो रहा, फ्लैटन हो रहा. कब, जब हम लोग इनहेल करते हैं, व्हेन वी ब्रीथ. एंड चेस्ट कैविटी क्या होता है, इट बिकम द लार्जर. सो फाइनली क्या हो रहा है, सरफेस एरिया बढ़ रहा है. सो ड्यू टू दैट एयर, ज्यादा एयर हम लोग सक कर सकते हैं. एंड लंग्स इज फील्ड अगेन, इट इज बीइंग ड्यू टू दैट alveoli is being extended. So alveoli जब extend होगा तो इसका क्या होगा, surface area बढ़ेगा. So that blood going to bring the carbon dioxide from the rest of the body, and it is being released into alveoli. Whereas the oxygen in the alveoli air is taken by the blood. So this alveoli is going to play the role. So हम लोग जब inhale करते हैं, क्या होता है, एक्सपेंड हुआ वहां पर, फाइनली एल्वेली एक्सपेंड हुआ तो सरफेस एरिया बढ़ा, तो फाइनली एक्सचेंज ऑफ कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड और ऑक्सीजन का हुआ. सो फाइनली दैट oxygenated blood, that oxygen is going to mix with blood and it's being transported to the cell with the help of heart, that we'll discuss. So it's a breathing cycle hai. So when we have taken the air and when we have let it out, so what is happening this? So that residual volume of air, that is sufficient amount of oxygen is being absorbed and carbon dioxide is being released. So when we exhale, so in that percentage of oxygen is less, percentage of carbon dioxide is what? More. So that's why in the starting में हम लोग क्या देखे, activity where we are blowing with mouth as well as on the lime water, as well as we are going to pass the fresh air over the lime water through the पिचकारी. So body size of the animal का large है. So for that diffusion pressures alone cannot be care of oxygen delivery. जैसे हम लोग का ह्यूमन बॉडीज है, so already diffusion के कारण oxygenated blood is not going to reach the different part. Okay, so for that only transportation is required. For us, heart is there. Okay, so that pigments which is taken the oxygen should reach to the cell, or when it is not going to reach to the cell, so finally that having deficient, so that deficiency is going to occur. So हम लोग के ह्यूमन बींग्स में यू हैव हियर्ड अबाउट हीमोग्लोबिन. हीमोग्लोबिन बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट आइटम्स है. ड्यू टू हीमोग्लोबिन ओनली oxygenated or oxygen is in the blood which is going to reach to the uh, blood cell. So when hemoglobin, suppose generally if you see that in the medical, whatever unit that using, it should be in the range of 12 to 14. So male में क्या है, something sometimes maybe 12 to 14 or 11 to 14 also okay. But in case of female, hemoglobin का मात्रा थोड़ा comparatively to the male is higher. So it can be 13 to 15. So that depends upon the test, which type of the chemical they are going to use. So hemoglobin अधिक कम होने से people feel drowsy also, since oxygenated blood is not going to reach. So hemoglobin is very, very important. So hemoglobin कहाँ है? Red that we call as the RBC, WBC also, that is the RBC, red blood corpuscles. Okay. So carbon dioxide is more soluble in water in compared to oxygen. So it is being transported in the form of dissolved in our blood. Okay, so transportation of carbon dioxide takes place. So क्योंकि कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड भी क्या है, ऑक्सीजन के कंपेयर में ब्लड में इट इज मोर सोल्यूबल इन वाटर. वाटर अगेन ब्लड में क्या प्लाज्मा, ये सब क्या क्या विल सी लेटर. ओके, hence mostly transported in the dissolved form in the blood only. So in case of like what we have seen, some interesting fact also we can see that एलोवेरा क्या होता है, सरफेस बढ़ता है जब हम लोग क्या करते हैं, इनहेल करते हैं. सो इट विल कवर अबाउट 80 मीटर स्क्वायर. सो 80 मीटर स्क्वायर मीटर, यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड द व्हाट विल बी द साइज. ओके, सो सरफेस एरिया क्या हमारा बॉडी का उतना 80 मीटर स्क्वायर है नहीं. सो हाउ दिस इफिशिएंट एक्सचेंज ऑफ गैस becomes because of large surface available in the exchange to take place. तो बड़ी उतना नहीं है, लेकिन एलोवेरा सरफेस क्या हो रहा है, इतना एक्सपेंड कर रहा है, छोटा छोटा वहां पे है. तो दैट इज द गोइंग टू कवर दिस मच एरिया, हाउ मच, 80 मीटर स्क्वायर. And due to diffusion, more oxygen in our body we are going to obtain. Okay, and it will take, suppose only if hemoglobin is not available. Okay, so if diffusion process is going to take place and due to diffusion ही हमारे शरीर में ऑक्सीजन रीच करेगा from one place to another place in the body. So ये कितना टाइम लेगा? It will take 3 years. 3 years for a molecule of oxygen to get to our toes from the lungs. So the lungs से चला toes जाने में 3 साल लग जाएगा, 3 years. So that's why here hemoglobin is going to play the role. So these are the discussion about how respiration takes place and why respiration is important, what is the ATP, what is the ADP, and how in the human beings respiration takes place. And this alveolar is very, very important, as well as we should avoid tobacco, smoking, all these things. Okay, so that here you see that in case of smoking, that hair-like structure, that cilia is being damaged, and cilia is used to what? Remove the germs, dust, and other harmful particles being inhaled. Okay, so that's, so germ will not be killed. So finally, we are going to be affected. So these germs, so finally, that is important is what? This hair-like cilia. So once cilia will be damaged, so finally germs and dust, everything is going to pass easily, and you will have infection, coughing, and even people are suffering with the lungs cancer. So a smoking and tobacco items taking in any form is the harmful. Okay. So any doubt is there, you write in the comment box. Whatever your suggestion is, that is welcome. Whatever your requirements are there, you can write. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.